Hello, students. Chef Clay Peden here, one of the culinary arts instructors at Central Arizona College. In today's lecture, we're going to be discussing stocks and sauces and how to make a quality stock. We will also be conveying or covering the sauces that are very important in the industry when it comes to pairing them with the correct dishes and so forth that you make. A stock is a flavored liquid. A good stock is the key to a great soup, sauce, or braised dish. Now, the French appropriately call a stock a base, and as stocks are the basis for many classic and modern dishes. A sauce is a thickened liquid used to flavor or enhance other foods. A good sauce adds flavor, moisture, richness, and visual appeal. Now remember, a sauce should complement the food. It should never disguise it. A sauce can be either hot or cold, sweet or savory, smooth, and sometimes even chunky. Now, although the thought of preparing stocks and sauces may be intimidating, the procedures are really straightforward. If you carefully follow the basic procedures outlined and use high quality ingredients, with practice and experience, you will soon be producing very fine stocks and sauces. Now, when it comes to stocks, there are several types of stocks. Although all stocks are made from a combination of bones, vegetables, seasonings, and liquids, each type is made using specific procedures to give it distinctive characteristics. A white stock is made by simmering chicken, veal, or beef bones in water with vegetables and seasonings. The stock remains relatively colorless during the cooking process. A brown stock is made from chicken, veal, beef, or game bones and vegetables, and all of which are caramelized before being simmered in water with seasonings. The stock has a rich, dark color. Both a fish stock and a fumet are made by slowly cooking fish bones or crustacean shells and vegetables without coloring them, then simmering them in water with seasonings for a short time. For a fumet, wine and lemon juice are also added. The resulting stock or fumet is strongly flavored, relatively colorless liquid. A court bouillon is made by simmering vegetables and seasonings in water and an acidic liquid such as vinegar or wine. It is used usually to poach fish or vegetables. The quality of a stock is judged by 4 characteristics: body, flavor, clarity, and color. Body develops when collagen proteins dissolve in protein-based stock. Vegetable stocks have less body than meat stocks because they lack the animal protein. Aromatic vegetables, herbs, sachets, and proper ratios of ingredients to liquids give their stock their flavor. Clarity is achieved by removing impurities during stock making. Many ingredients contribute to a stock's color. Vegetables such as leeks and carrots give a white stock a light color. Browned bones and tomato paste color dark stocks. Improper uses of coloring ingredients can overwhelm the color and the flavor of a stock. A quality stock is made using the proper ingredients in the right ratios. Now, to ensure that a stock has a consistent flavor each time it is prepared, do not ever use random pieces of meat, poultry, fish, or vegetables. Instead, use only random meat, poultry, fish, and vegetable trimmings you may have on hand to make a one-of-a-kind soup or liquids, cooking, beans, or grains. Now, the basic ingredients of any stock are bones, mirepoix, which concern of coarsely chopped onions, carrots, and celery, or seasonings and water. Bones are the most important ingredient in a protein-based stock. They add flavor, richness, and color. Traditionally, the kitchen or your butcher shop saves the day's bones to make stock. But because food service operations now buy meats and poultry items pre-cut or proportioned, bones are purchased specifically for stock making. Different kinds of bones release their flavor at different rates, even though the bones are cut into 3 to 4 inch pieces. A stock made entirely of beef and or veal bones require 6 to 8 hours of cooking time, whereas stock made entirely from chicken bones requires only 5 to 6 hours. The best bones for beef and veal stock are from younger animals. They contain a higher percentage of cartilage and other connective tissue than do the bones from more mature animals. Now, connective tissue has a high collagen content. Through the cooking process, the collagen is converted into gelatin and water. Gelatin adds richness and body to a finished stock. The best beef and veal bones are the back, neck, and shank bones, as they contain more high levels of collagen. Beef and veal bones should be cut with a meat saw into small pieces, approximately 3 to 4 inches long, so that they can release as much flavor as possible while the stock cooks. The best bones for chicken stock come from the neck and the back area. If a whole chicken carcass is used, it can be cut up for easier handling. The best bones for a fish stock are from a lean fish, such as sole, flounder, whiting, or turbot. Bones from fatty fish, for example salmon, tuna, and swordfish, do not produce good stock because of their high fat content and distinctive flavors. The entire fish carcass can be used, but it should be cut up with a cleaver or a heavy knife for easy handling and even extraction of flavors. After cutting, rinse the pieces in cold water to remove any blood, loose scales, or other impurities. Lamb, turkey, game, and ham bones can be used for a white or brown stocks. Although mixing bones is generally acceptable, be careful of blending strongly flavored bones, such as those from lamb or game with beef, veal, or chicken bones. The former strong flavors may not be appropriate or desirable in your finished product. A mirepoix is a mixture of onions, carrots, and celery added to a stock to enhance its flavor and aroma. Although chefs differ on the ratio of vegetables, generally a mixture of 50% onions, 25% carrots, and 25% celeries by weight is used. Unless otherwise noted, any reference to a mirepoix will reference this ratio. Now, for a brown stock, onion skins may be used in the mirepoix to add color. Although washing them is very essential, it is not necessarily to peel the carrots or celery because of flavor. Not aesthetics is important. The size into which the mirepoix is chopped is determined by the stock's cooking time. The shorter the cooking time, the smaller the vegetables must be chopped to ensure that all possible flavor is extracted. For white or brown stocks made from veal or beef bones, the vegetables should be coarsely chopped into large 1 to 2 inch pieces. For chicken and fish stocks, the vegetables should be more finely chopped into half-inch pieces. A white mirepoix is made by replacing the carrots in a standard mirepoix with parsnips and adding mushrooms or leeks. Some chefs prefer to use white mirepoix when making a white stock, as it produces a lighter product. Sometimes parsnips, mushrooms, and leeks are added to a standard mirepoix for additional flavors. The uses for mirepoix extend beyond stock making. Many braised dishes, sauces, soups, and stews begin with gently sautéed mirepoix. Cuisines throughout the world have their own variations of this flavor base. The Holy Trinity in Cajun cooking, for example, is a mixture of diced onions, celery, and green bell peppers that are gently sautéed as a base for many dishes such as gumbo or jambalaya. Similarly, Asian cuisines often start with a mixture of chopped garlic, ginger, and scallions to flavor stir-fried and simmered dishes. Principal stock seasonings are as follows: peppercorns, bay leaves, thyme, parsley stems, and optionally garlic. These seasons generally can be left whole. A stock is cooked long enough for all their flavors to be extracted, so there's no reason to chop or grind them. Seasonings generally are added to the stock at the start of cooking. But some chefs do not add seasonings to beef or veal stock until midway through the cooking process. However, because of the extended cooking time, seasonings can be added to a sachet of d'espice or a bouquet garni. Salt, an otherwise important seasoning, is not ever added to a stock. Because the stock has a variety of uses, it is impossible to know how much salt to add when preparing it. If, for example, the stock was seasoned to taste with salt, you could not ever reduce it later on. Salt is not lost through reduction, and the concentrated product would be way too salty. Similar seasons to stock to taste with salt can prevent you from adding other ingredients that are high in salt when finishing a recipe. Unlike many of the flavors of many seasonings, we must be incorporated into a product through the lengthy cooking periods. Salt can be added at any time during the cooking process and affect flavor in the same way. Now, principles of stock making. Always start your stock in cold water. When bones are covered with cold water, blood and impurities dissolve. As the water heats, the impurities coagulate and rise to the surface, where they can be removed easily by skimming your stock. If the bones are covered with hot water, the impurities would coagulate more quickly and remain dispersed in the stock without rising to the top, making the stock cloudy. Stocks made from vegetables should also be started in cold water so that the vegetables cook slowly. Gentle simmering allows the flavors to be fully extracted. If the water level falls below the bones or vegetables during cooking, add cold water to cover them. Flavor cannot be extracted from bones that are not underwater, and bones exposed to the air will darken and discolor a white stock. The stock should be brought to a boil and then reduced to a simmer, a temperature of approximately 185 degrees. Gentle simmering allows the ingredients to release their flavors into the liquid. If kept at a simmer, the liquid will remain clear as it reduces and the stock develops. Never boil a stock for any length of time. Rapid boiling of a stock, even for just a few minutes, causes impurities and fats to blend with the liquid, making it cloudy. A stock should be skimmed often to remove the fat and impurities that rise to the surface during cooking. If they are not removed, fat impurities will make your stock cloudy. Even vegetable stocks should be skimmed so that any fat or scum rise to the surface. Once a stock finishes cooking, the liquid must be separated from the bones, vegetables, and other solid ingredients. In order to keep the liquid clear, it is important not to disturb the solid ingredients when removing the liquid. This is easily accomplished if the stock is cooked with a steam kettle or a stock pot with a spigot at the bottom. Open the spigot and allow the stock to drain through a mesh strainer lined with several layers of damp cheesecloth. Dampening the cheesecloth with clean water helps prevent it from absorbing the stock. If the stock is cooked in a standard stock pot, follow these steps to strain it. Number 1, skim as much of the fat and as many impurities from the surface as possible before removing the stock pot from the heat. 2, after removing the pot from the heat, carefully ladle the stock from the pot without stirring it. And 3, strain the stock through a china cap lined with several layers of damp cheesecloth. Now, most stocks are prepared in very large quantities, cooled, and then held for later use. Great care must be taken when cooling a stock to prevent foodborne illnesses or the development of a sour off taste. To cool a stock below the temperature of danger zone quickly and safely, several steps must be followed. One critical step is venting the stock pot by elevating it into a deep sink, then filling the sink with cold water. The water circulates on all sides of the pot, speeding cooling. In addition to the venting process, ice wands can be used to speed the coolings of stocks, soups, and sauces, and other liquids. Now, ice wands are hollow plastic containers that can be filled with water or ice, sealed, frozen, and then used to stir and cool liquids. Make sure you clean and sanitize the one after each use to prevent cross-contamination. A brown stock is made from chicken, veal, beef, or game bones. The finished stock should have good flavor, rich dark brown color, good body, and a high gelatin content. The primary differences between a brown stock and a white stock are that for a brown stock, the bones and mirepoix have been caramelized before being simmered and a tomato product is added. These extra steps provide the finished stock with a rich dark color and more intense flavor. You might recall from our last lecture that caramelization is the process of browning the sugars found on the surface of most foods. Now, caramelization gives brown stock its characteristic flavor and color. Now let's talk about a remoulage. Remoulage is a French term for re-wetting that refers to a second batch of stock made by reusing the bones from making your first batch of stock. After draining the original stock from the stock pot, add a fresh mirepoix, a new sachet, and enough water to cover the bones and mirepoix to make a second stock. A remoulage is treated like the original stock. Allow it to simmer for 4 to 5 hours before straining. A remoulage is not as clear or as flavorful as the original stock, however. It is often used to make glazes or put in place in water when making stocks. Now, a fish stock and a fish fumet are similar but can be used interchangeably in most recipes. Both are going to be clear with a pronounced fish flavor and a very light body. A fumet, however, is more strongly flavored and aromatic than a fish stock and contains an acidic ingredient such as either white wine or lemon juice. Only the bones and heads of lean fish and crustacean shells are used to make this fish stock. Oily fish, such as mackerel, salmon, or tuna, are not used because their pronounced flavor would overwhelm the stock. The fish bones and shells used to make a fish stock or a fumet should be washed but never blanched. Blanching removes way too much flavor. They may be sweated without browning if desired, however. Because of the size and structure of fish bones and crustacean shells, stocks and fumets made from them require much less cooking time than even chicken stock. Only 30 to 45 minutes is usually sufficient to extract full flavor. Now, mirepoix and other vegetables should be cut small so that their flavors can be extracted during the short cooking time. The procedure for making fish stock is very similar to that for making a white stock. A fish fumet is flavored with white wine and lemon juice. When making a fumet, sweat the bones and vegetables before adding the cooking liquid and seasonings. A fish stock is sometimes used to make a fish fumet. This resulting product is more strongly flavored than the fish fumet made with water. A good vegetable stock should be clear and light colored. Because it contains no animal products, vegetable stock has no gelatin content and very little body. A vegetable stock can be used instead of a meat-based stock in most recipes. This substitution is useful when preparing vegetarian dishes. Vegetable stock is also lighter, more healthier alternative to use when preparing sauces and soups. Although almost any combination of vegetables can be used for stock making, more variety is not always better. Sometimes a vegetable stock made with 1 or 2 vegetables that complement the finished dish particularly well produces better results than a stock made with many different vegetables. Strongly flavored vegetables such as asparagus, broccoli, and other vegetables, spinach, and bitter greens should be avoided when making an all-purpose vegetable stock. Potatoes and other starchy vegetables cloud your stock and should never be used unless clarity is not a concern. As with meat or fish stocks, vegetable stocks should be started with cold water to extract all the flavor from the ingredients used. Any fat or scum that rises to the surface should be skimmed off. A white or neutral stock is made from beef, veal, or chicken bones. Now, the finished stock should have a good flavor, good clarity, high gelatin content, and little or no color. Veal bones are often used, but any combination of beef, veal, or chicken bones may be used. Chefs disagree on whether the bones for a white stock should be blanched to remove impurities. Some chefs argue that blanching keeps the stock as clear and colorless as possible, while others argue that blanching removes nutrients and flavor. An aromatic court bouillon is sometimes served as a light sauce or broth with fish or shellfish. Now, this sauce or broth accompaniment is known as a nage, and dishes served in this manner described as à la nage, which means swimming in French. And now, after the fish or shellfish is cooked in a court bouillon, additional herbs and aromatic vegetables are added to the cooking liquid, which is then reduced slightly and strained. A glaze is a dramatic reduction or concentration of a stock. 1 gallon of stock produces only 8 to 16 fluid ounces of glaze. Meat glaze is made from brown stock, reduced until it becomes dark and syrupy. Poultry glaze is reduced chicken stock, and fish glaze, of course, is reduced fish stock. Glazes are added to soups or sauces to increase and intensify flavors. An infusion is a light, flavorful stock made from dried fruits or vegetables, herbs, spices, or other ingredients steeped in very hot water. Infusion is similar to the method used to make tea or coffee. Perhaps the most well-known culinary infusion is dashi, the traditional Japanese broth made from dried fish and dried seaweed that is used to make miso or other soups. Almost any aromatic ingredient can be steeped in water to make an infusion. Umami-rich dried mushrooms, dried shrimp, or dried tomatoes make especially flavorful infusions, as do dried anchovies and the rind of a hard-aged cheese such as Parmesan and Romano. A well-made infusion has an appealing color and the concentrated flavor of the ingredients used to prepare it. Some infusions, such as saffron infusions, are clear, while others, like Parmesan cheese infusions, are cloudy. Although most lack the intensity of flavor of a traditional meat, fish, or vegetable stock, infusions can be used in much the same way as a stock. Chefs usually treat infusions as a lighter, more healthful alternatives to stock for cooking and flavoring foods. With a few exceptions, a sauce is a liquid plus thickening agent plus seasoning. Any chef can produce fine sauces by learning to do the following. 1. Make good stocks. 2. Use thickening agents properly to achieve the desired texture, flavor, and appearance. 3. Use seasonings properly to achieve the desired flavor. In the following sections, we're going to first discuss thickening and finishing techniques that work with a number of sauces. We will then go through on to describe classic leading and small sauces in more detail, as well as introduce discussed traditional sauces and contemporary sauces. Now, one of the most traditional and commonly used methods for thickening sauces is the gelatinization of starches. Gelatinization is the process by which starch granules absorb moisture when placed in a liquid and heated. As the starch granules absorb moisture, the product thickens. Now, starches used to thicken sauces include flour, cornstarch, and arrowroot. Gelatinization may sound easy, but it takes practice to produce a good sauce that is as the follows. Lump-free, has a good clean flavor, and is not pasty or floury, and has a consistency that coats the back of a spoon, known as nappe, and does not separate or break when your sauce is kept warm for service or it is being reduced. Now let's discuss a roux. Adding a roux is the principal way of thickening classic sauces. A roux is a combination of equal parts by weight of flour and fat, cooked together to form a paste. Cooking the flour and fat coats these starch granules with the fat that prevents them from lumping together or forming lumps when introduced into a liquid. In large production kitchens, large amounts of roux are prepared and held for use as needed. Smaller operations may make roux as required for each recipe. There are 3 different types of roux. A white roux is cooked only briefly and should be removed from the heat as soon as it develops a frothy, bubbly appearance. It is used in white sauces such as bechamel, or in dishes where little or no color is desired. A blonde roux is cooked slightly longer within a white roux, and it should begin to take on a little bit of color as the flour caramelizes. It is used in ivory-colored sauces such as a velouté or where richer flavor is desired. And last but not least, your brown roux. It is cooked until it develops a dark color and a very nutty aroma and flavor. Now, a brown roux is used in brown sauces and dishes where the dark color is desired. It is important to remember that cooking a starch before adding the liquids break down the starch granules and prevent gelatinization. Therefore, because brown roux is cooked longer than white roux, more brown roux is required to thicken a given quantity of liquid. Remember that the darker the roux, the less thickening power it has. Now, cornstarch is a very fine white powder. It is pure starch derived from corn. It is used widely as a thickening agent for hot and cold sauces and is used extensively in Asian cuisines to thicken sauces and soups. Liquids thickened with cornstarch have a very glossy sheen that may or may not be desirable. 1 unit of cornstarch thickens about twice as much liquid as an equal unit of flour. Sauces thickened with cornstarch are less stable than those thickened with roux because cornstarch can break down and lose its thickening power after prolonged heating. Products thickened with cornstarch should never be reheated. Cornstarch can also break down when products thickened with it are frozen. Choose a different thickening method when making a sauce that will be frozen. Cornstarch must be mixed with a cool liquid before it's introduced into a hot one. The cool liquid separates the grains of the starch and allows them to begin absorbing the liquid without lumping. A solution of starch and a cold liquid is called a slurry. The starch slurry may be added to either a hot or cold liquid, and if added to a hot liquid, it must be stirred continuously during incorporation. Unlike roux, cornstarch begins to thicken almost immediately if the liquid is hot. Sauces thickened with cornstarch must be cooked gently until the raw starch flavor disappears, usually around 5 minutes. Arrowroot, derived from the roots of several tropical plants, is very similar in texture, appearance, and thickening power to cornstarch, and is used exactly in the same manner. Arrowroot does not break down as quickly as cornstarch, and it produces a slightly clearer finished product, although it is much more expensive than cornstarch. Now, a beurre Meunier is a combination of equal amounts by weight and flour and soft whole butter. Beurre Meunier is used for quick thickening at the end of the cooking process. A beurre Meunier adds shine and flavor to the sauces as it melts. A liaison, unlike the thickeners already described in this lecture, a liaison does not thicken the sauce through gelatinization. A liaison is a mixture of egg yolks and heavy cream. It adds richness and smoothness with minimal thickening. Now, special care must be taken to prevent the egg yolks from coagulating when they are added to hot liquids because this could curdle in the sauce. Sauces can also be used by the process of emulsification. Emulsification takes place when ingredients that are normally unmixable, such as fat and water, are forced into a creamy state through the action of beating, blending, shaking, stirring, or whisking. The agitation breaks the fat into microscopic droplets that are dispersed in the water. Usually, an emulsifying agent, such as the lecithin found in egg yolks, must be present to aid in the process. In scientific terms, this is called a fat in water emulsification, where the fat, the dispersed phase, is dispersed into water, the continuous phase. Cream and milk are examples of fat in water emulsifications created during the process of homogenization. Butter whisked into vinegar and egg yolks for hollandaise sauce is another example of fat in water emulsion. The microscopic droplets of fat suspended in the liquid give the emulsion its creamy, cloudy appearance. The action of stirring or whisking a sauce incorporated ingredients produces one of the 3 types of emulsions: permanent, semi-permanent, or a temporary emulsion. A permanent emulsion, such as that is formed when making mayonnaise, will last for several days. A semi-permanent emulsion will last for just only a few hours. Hollandaise sauce is an example of a semi-permanent emulsion. A temporary emulsion lasts very briefly and usually does not contain an emulsifying agent. Instead, vigorous whisking aerates the mixture, causing the temperature suspension of liquids. When oil and vinegar are whisked together, this makes a simple salad dressing, and a dressing is a temporary emulsion. Now, there are several techniques can be used to finish a sauce. Among these are reduction, straining, and monteur à beurre. Each of these techniques is briefly described in the following sections. Reduction: as sauces cook, moisture is released in the form of steam. As steam escapes, the remaining ingredients concentrate, thickening the sauces and strengthening its flavors. This process is known as reduction. Is commonly used to thicken sauces because no starches or other flavor-altering ingredients are needed. Sauces are often finished by allowing them to reduce until the desired consistency is reached. Now, smoothness is a very important quality that contributes to the success of most all sauces. To smooth a sauce, strain it through either a china cap lined with several layers of cheesecloth or a fine mesh chinois. As discussed later in this lecture, often vegetables, herbs, spices, and other seasonings are added to a sauce for flavor. Straining removes these ingredients as well as any lumps of roux or thickener remaining in the sauce. On a personal note, I suggest that all sauces must be strained. A monte beurre is the process of swirling or whisking whole butter into a sauce to impart shine, flavor, and richness. Compound or flavor butters, discussed later, can be used in the place of whole butter to add specific flavors. Monte au beurre is widely used to enrich and finish small sauces. In classic French cuisine, sauces that are served warm are divided into two groups. Leading sauces, which are also sometimes referred to as grand or your mother sauces. And then you have small sauces or compound sauces, also known as sister sauces. The 5 classic mother sauces are as follows: bechamel, velouté, espagnole, tomato, and hollandaise. Except for hollandaise, a leading sauce is rarely served as is. More often, leading sauces are used to create the many small sauces. These 5 leading sauces are the foundation for the classic repertoire that can be seasoned and garnished to create a wide variety of small or compound sister sauces. These 5 leading sauces are distinguished principally by the liquids and thickeners used to create them. Small or compound sauces are grouped into families based on their leading sauce. Some small sauces have a variety of uses. Others are traditionally accompaniments for specific foods. A small sauce may be named for its ingredients, place of origin, or creator. Although there are many classic small sauces, we have included only a few or more popular ones following each of the leading sauce recipes. The bechamel family. Among the oldest sauces in classic repertoire is the bechamel. Now, bechamel is one of the 2 sauces also known as a white sauce. Traditionally, a bechamel was made by adding heavy cream to a thick veal velouté, which is the other sauce known as a white sauce. Although some chefs still believe a bechamel should contain veal stock, today the sauce is almost always made with thickening scalded milk, with a white roux and added seasonings. Bechamel is often used for vegetables, egg, and gratin dishes. Cheese sauces made from bechamel is indispensable when making macaroni and cheese. However, bechamel has fallen into a relative disfavor in recent decades because of its rich, heavy nature. It is nevertheless important to understand its production and its place of the traditional sauce making. A properly made bechamel is very rich, creamy, and absolutely smooth, with no hint of graininess. The flavors of the onion and the clove used it should be apparent, but should not overwhelm the sauce's clean, milky taste. Bechamel sauce should be the color of heavy cream and have a deep luster. It should be thick enough that it coats foods lightly, but it should not taste like a roux used to thicken it. When making these cream sauces, it is important to simmer them gently and to stir to prevent the mixture from overheating and sticking to the pan. Cream sauces, such as a bechamel, are susceptible to scorching. Scorching takes place when eggs or milk proteins are overheated and then coagulate and stick to the pan before burning. Scorching changes the aroma, color, and taste of the product. Always, a scorched sauce must be discarded. Veloute sauces are made by thickening a white stock or a fish stock with the roux. The white stock can be made from veal or chicken bones. A properly made veloute sauce should be rich, smooth, and lump-free. If made from chicken or fish stock, it should taste of chicken or fish. A veloute made from veal stock should have more neutral flavor. The sauce should be ivory colored with a deep luster. It should be thick enough to cling to foods without tasting like a roux used to thicken it. A veloute sauce made from veal or chicken stock is usually made one or two intermediately sauces, your almondane and your supreme, from which many small sauces are derived. Now on to the Espagnole family. The mother sauce of the Espagnole or brown sauce family is a full-bodied and rich sauce. It is made from brown stock to which brown roux, mirepoix, and tomato puree have been added, although modern kitchens often prepare a modified version of this sauce made without roux. Most often this sauce is used to produce a demi-glace. Brown stock is also used to make a coulis. Demi-glace or coulis are sauces used to create the small sauces of an Espagnole family. Espagnole sauce can be made into a demi-glace, which in turn is used to make the small sauces for the Espagnole family. A demi-glace is half brown sauce, half brown stock, and then it's reduced by half. It is usually finished with a small amount of Madeira or sherry. Because demi-glace creates a richer, more flavorful base, it produces finer, small sauces than those made directly from a brown sauce. A properly made demi-glace is rich, smooth, and lump-free. Its prominent roast flavor comes from the bones used from the brown stock. There should be no taste of a roux in a demi-glace. The caramelized bones and mirepoix, as well as the tomato product, contribute to its glossy dark brown, almost chocolate color. A demi-glace should be thick enough to cling to the food without being pasty or heavy. A coulis, also known as fondue, is used like a demi-glace to produce small sauces. Coulis is lighter and easier to make than a demi-glace. However, it is more common in modern kitchens than a demi-glace. A properly made coulis is very rich and smooth. It shares many flavor characteristics with the demi-glace. Its color should be dark brown and glossy from the concentrated gelatin content. Its consistency is somewhat lighter than a demi-glace, but it should still cling lightly to foods. Now, a coulis is made one of two ways. A rich brown stock is thickened with cornstarch or arrowroot and seasoned. And number two, a rich brown stock is simmered and reduced so that it thickens naturally because of the concentrated amounts of gelatin and other proteins. The starch thickened method is a quick alternative to the long simmering method. But because coulis made with starch thickened method is simply a brown stock thickened with cornstarch or arrowroot, it is only as good as the stock in which it begun. Sauces made from reduced stocks usually have a better flavor, but can be expensive to produce because of the high ingredient costs and the lengthy reduction time. A vegetarian coulis can be made from deeply browned aromatic vegetables to give the sauce a rich flavor. Now, your classic tomato sauce is made from tomatoes, vegetables, seasonings, and white stock, and thickened with a blonde or a brown roux. In today's kitchens, however, most tomato sauces are not thickened with roux. Rather, they are created from tomatoes, herbs, spices, vegetables, and other flavor ingredients simmered together and then pureed. They are thickened by reduction, not a roux. A gastrique is sometimes added to reduce the acidity of the tomato sauce. To prepare a gastrique, caramelize a small amount of sugar, then thin or deglaze the vinegar, and this mixture is used to finish a tomato sauce. A properly made tomato sauce is thick, rich, and full flavored. Its texture should be grainier than most of other classic sauces, but it should still be smooth. The vegetables and other seasonings should add flavor, but none should be pronounced. Tomato sauces should not be bitter, acidic, or overly sweet. It should be deep red and thick enough to cling to foods. Hollandaise and the small sauces derived from it are emulsified sauces. Egg yolks, which contain large amounts of lecithin and natural emulsifier, are used to emulsify warm butter in small amounts of water, lemon juice, or vinegar. When egg yolks are vigorously whipped with the liquid while in warm butter is slowly added, the lecithin coats the individual fat droplets and holds them in suspension in the liquid. A properly made hollandaise is smooth, buttery, pale lemon yellow in color, and very rich. It should be lump-free and does not exhibit any signs of separation. The buttery flavor dominates, but does not mask the flavors of the eggs, lemon, and vinegar. Hollandaise sauce should be frothy and lighty, not heavy like a mayonnaise. Now always remember, temperature plays an important role in the proper production of a hollandaise sauce. As the egg yolks and liquid are whisked together, they are cooked over a bain-marie until they thicken to the consistency and slight whipped cream. Do not overheat this mixture, because even slightly cooked eggs lose their ability to emulsify. So for this reason, the clarified butter used to make the sauce should be warm, but not so hot as to further cook the egg yolks. Although hollandaise sauce can be made from whole butter, a more stable and consistent product is achieved by using clarified butter. Occasionally, a hollandaise sauce will break or separate and appear thin, grainy, or even lumpy. A sauce breaks when the emulsion has not been formed or the emulsified butter, eggs, and liquid have separated. This may happen for several reasons. The temperature of the eggs or the butter may have been too high or too low. The butter may have been added too quickly. The egg yolks may have been overcooked. Too much butter have been added to the sauce, may not have been whipped vigorously enough. To rescue and re-emulsify broken hollandaise sauce, you must be first determine whether it is too hot or too cold. If it is too hot, allow the sauce to cool. If it is too cold, reheat the sauce over a double broiler before attempting to rescue it. For 1 quart of broken sauce, place 1 tablespoon of water in a clean stainless steel bowl. And slowly beat in your broken sauce. If the problem seems to be that the egg whites were overcooked or too much butter was added, add an egg yolk to the water before incorporating the broken sauce. Now, not all sauces fall into the classic French classifications. There are other sauces which we refer to in this lecture as traditional sauces. For example, a beurre blanc, which means French for white butter, or a beurre rouge, which means red butter. These are based on acidic reduction in which the whole butter is incorporated. Other traditional sauces use purees or fruits or vegetables as their base. They are all known as a coulis. Pan gravy and other pan sauces are common in American kitchens as they are in France. Now, a beurre blanc or a beurre rouge are emulsified butter sauces made without egg yolks. The small amounts of casein, which is the protein in milk, lecithin, and other emulsifiers naturally found in butter from an oil and water emulsion. Although similar to hollandaise in concept, these emulsified butter sauces are not considered to be the classic leading nor compound sauces. Beurre blanc and beurre rouge are thinner and lighter than hollandaise or a béarnaise. They should be smooth and slightly thicker than heavier cream. Beurre blanc and beurre rouge are made from 3 main ingredients: shallots, white wine or red wine, and whole butter, not clarified butter. The shallots and wine provide flavor, while the butter becomes the base of the sauce. A good beurre blanc or a beurre rouge is rich and buttery, with neutral flavor that responds well to the seasonings and flavorings, thereby lending itself to the addition of herbs, spices, and vegetable purees to complement the dish in which it is served. The pale color of a beurre blanc or a beurre rouge changes depending on the flavor added. A beurre blanc or a beurre rouge should be light and airy, yet still liquid, thick enough to cling to food. Now, a compound butter is made by incorporating various seasonings into softened whole butter. These butters, also known as beurre composes, give flavor and color to small sauces or may be served as sauces in their own right. For example, a slice of Maître d'Hôtel butter, which is parsley butter, is often placed on a grilled steak with a piece of fish at the time of service. The butter quickly melts, creating a sauce for the beef or the fish. Butter and flavoring ingredients can also be combined in a blender, food processor, or a mixer. Using parchment paper or plastic wrap, the butter is then rolled into a cylinder, chilled, and sliced as needed. Or a compound butter can be simply piped into rosettes and refrigerated until firm. Most compound butters keep for 2 to 3 days in the refrigerator, or they can be frozen for longer storage. Pan gravy is aptly named. It is made directly in the pan, used to roast the poultry, beef, lamb, or pork that the gravy will accompany. Pan gravy is actually a sauce. It is a liquid thickened with a roux. Pan gravy grains additional flavors from the drippings left in the roasting pan. A portion of the fat rendering during the roasting process is what is used to make the roux. This technique is used in the recipe for roast turkey with chestnut dressing and giblet gravy. A properly made pan gravy should have all the characteristics of any brown sauce. However, pan gravy typically has a meatier flavor than a simple brown sauce because pan gravy is made in the pan drippings. Now, sauces served with sautéed meats, poultry, or fish are often made directly in the sauté pan in which the dish was cooked. Once the food is sautéed, it is removed from the pan and kept warm while the sauce is prepared. Stock, jus lis, or other liquids are added to deglaze the pan. Like a pan gravy, these pan sauces gain flavor from the drippings left in the pan. Unlike pan gravy, pan sauces are usually thickened by reduction, not with a starch. Many chefs prefer the intense flavor that comes from reducing liquids in a pan sauce over sauces thickened with a roux. And because there is no added fat or starch, pan sauces usually are lower in calories than many other sauces. The term coulis most often refers to a sauce made from a puree of vegetables and or fruit that is strained before serving. A vegetable coulis can be served either hot or cold accompaniment to other vegetables, starches, meat, poultry, fish, or shellfish. It is often made from a single vegetable base. Popular examples include broccoli, tomatoes, and sweet red peppers. Then cooked with flavoring ingredients such as onions, garlic, shallots, herbs, and spices, and then pureed. An appropriate stock or liquid would be maybe water or heavy cream, may be added to thin the puree if necessary. Vegetable coulis are often prepared with very little fat and served as a healthy alternative to heavier classic sauces. Typically, both vegetables and fruit coulis have a texture similar to that of a thin tomato sauce, but their texture can range from slightly grainy to almost lumpy, depending on their intended use. The flavor and color of a coulis should be that of the main ingredient. The flavor of herbs, spices, and other flavor ingredients should complement, not dominate, the coulis. Now, flavored butters, flavored oils, foams, salsas, relishes, and pan gravy are also used as sauces in food service operations. Chefs are currently relying less on traditional sauces and more on salsas, relishes, juices, broths, foams, and essences and infused oils in their work. Unlike classic sauces, these accompaniments do not rely on meat-based stocks or starch thickeners, but rather fresh vegetables, vegetable juices, aromatic broths, and intensely flavored oils. The name for these sauces are not codified as those used in classic sauce repertoire. Chefs apply various terms freely, using whatever name best fits the dish in the overall menu. Most of these contemporary sauces can be prepared more quickly than other classic counterparts, and the uses of fresh fruits and vegetables enhance their healthfulness of the dish. These so-called contemporary or modern sauces may have a lighter body and less fat than the classic sauces, but they still derive from classical culinary techniques and principles. The sauces should be appropriate in flavor, texture, and appearance, and should complement, not overwhelm, the food that they are going to accompany. Now, when it comes to salsas and relish, many people think that salsa, which is Spanish for sauce, is a chunky mixture of raw vegetables and chilies eaten with corn chips or ladled over a Mexican food. Similarly, many people think that relish is a sweet green condiment spooned over a hot dog. But salsas and relish, generally cold, chunky mixtures of herbs, spices, fruits, and or vegetables, can be used as sauces for many meats, poultry, fish, or shellfish items. They can include ingredients such as oranges, pineapple, papaya, black beans, jicama, tomatillos, and an array of other vegetables. Although not members of the classic sauce family, salsas, chutneys, and relishes are popular because of their intense fresh flavors, ease of preparation, and low fat and calorie content. Salsas and relishes are often a riot of colors, textures, and flavors, simultaneously cool and hot, spicy and sweet. Juice extractors make it possible to prepare juice from fresh, uncooked vegetables, such as carrots, beets, and spinach. Thinner and smoother than a puree, vegetable juice can be heated, reduced, flavored, and enriched with butter or oil to create colorful, intensely flavored sauces. Cream or stock can be added to finish the sauce. A sauce made from vegetable juice is sometimes referred to as an essence or a tea on the menu. Juices from single type of vegetables provide the purest, most pronounced flavors. But two or more vegetables sometimes can be combined successfully. Be very careful of mixing too many flavors and colors in the juice, however. Juiced vegetable sauces are particularly appropriate with pasta, fish, shellfish, and poultry, and they can be useful in vegetarian cuisine or as a healthier alternative to a classic sauce. A well-prepared juice sauce has the bright color and the flavor of the vegetable from which it is made, and it has body and will not separate. Broth, which also appears on menus as tea, au jus, essence, or a nage, is a thin, flavorful liquid served in a pool beneath the main food. The broth should not be so abundant as it turns the entree into a soup, but it should provide moisture and flavor. The essence, broth, or nage should often be made by simply reducing and straining the liquid into the main food that was cooked. Alternatively, a specifically flavored infusion or stock, tomato for example, can be prepared then clarified like a consommé to create a broth or an essence to accompany an appetizer or an entree. Contemporary chefs also create light sauces using whipping siphons to aerate liquids and purees. These sauces offer unusual textures and flavors. Frequently, the base for such sauces called foams is thickened with gums, stabilizers, and or other products more commonly found in the industrial kitchens. Aeration takes place when the gas, usually air, is incorporated into the mixture. This is what happens, for example, when heavy cream or egg whites are beaten with a wire whisk. Air becomes trapped in the bubbles that form in the mixture, causing it to expand in volume and transform into foam. In scientific terms, a foam is a gas in water emulsion, where the gas, the dispersed phase, is dispersed into the water, known as the continuous phase. A foam requires a stabilizing agent. For example, fat and heavy cream coats the air bubbles formed when a cream is whipped. The fat helps stabilize the mixture into a semi-permanent foam. When egg whites are whipped, egg proteins unfold into a network that traps the air into a semi-permanent foam. Foams that are stable enough to serve on a plated dish require a liquid that will trap air bubbles without bursting. A variety of modern thickeners, such as hydrochlorides or gums, alter the texture and viscosity of liquids and sauces. Such products, which bind water, help stabilize the sauce bases when whipped. The choice of which product to use depends on the number of factors. including the intended use and the serving temperature. Xanthan gum is widely available and among the more popular choices for stabilizing foam mixtures because it can be used in hot or cold liquids and is freezer stable. Always follow the manufacturer's directions when working with such thickeners. Because of their power, these ingredients are used in very small quantities. Light foams, which have a consistency like a froth on a cup of cappuccino, can be made by hand using a wire whisk or a hand blender. But they must be made in order and deflate quickly. Whipping siphons discharge CO2 gas into the liquid. This foam made in a whipping siphon holds up well on a plate. The sauce base can be kept warm for service and discharged to order. The wild mushroom foam recipe in your book calls on a whipping siphon to make a foam sauce. Other forms of making sauces appear throughout your textbook. Now, when it comes to flavored oils, small amounts of intensely flavored oil can dress or garnish a variety of dishes, salads, soups, vegetables, and starch dishes. And entrees can be enhanced with the drizzle of colorful, appropriately flavored oil. Because such small quantities are used, these oils provide flavor and moisture without adding too many calories or much fat. Unless the flavoring ingredient goes especially well with olive oil, select a high quality but neutral oil such as peanut, safflower, or canola. Although flavoring ingredients can be simply steeped in oil for a time, and a better way to flavor oil is to crush, puree, or cook the flavoring ingredient first. Warming the oil before infusing it with dry herbs or spices is recommended, as is decanting the oil to remove solids before using. A well-prepared flavored oil is a clear with a bright color and a fresh flavor of the herbs, spices, and seasonings used to make it. Chefs also use vinaigrettes, a combination of oil and vinegar, citrus, or other acidic liquid, as quick light sauces. Vinaigrettes give the illusion of lightness, and many health-conscious customers are demanding, although the oil in vinaigrettes can be added to fat and calorie content. Sauces provide chefs with many ways to build upon the flavors in a dish. This enhances a dish's visual appeal and the diner's taste experience when eating it. As you will learn in your culinary career, many sauces are integral to classic dishes. You cannot make eggs Benedict without hollandaise sauce, for example. Often, in addition to being called upon to make classic sauces for classic dishes, you may need to select sauces to accompany foods using your training and instinct. Always follow these guidelines to help you in that process. First one, select the appropriate sauce based on the cooking method used to prepare the dish. Grilled foods develop a crispier exterior flavored with the smoke from the cooking fire. You want to select a sauce that stands up to the robust grilled flavors, such as a chunky salsa with seared beef. When serving deep-fried foods, such as chicken wings or onion rings, look for a sauce that will preserve the food's crispy crust. When serving finger foods to be dipped into a sauce, choose a sauce that is thick enough to cling to the food. Number 2, you want to select the appropriate sauce based on the richness of the main ingredient. Lean cuts of meat, fish, and poultry and many vegetable dishes are enhanced with sauces made with butter, cream, or oil. Grilled chicken breasts, for example, are enhanced with your Maître d'Hôtel butter or your parsley butter. The butter melts over the chicken, adding moisture and richness to the poultry. Sauces with some acidity, such as one made with capers, lemon juice, or wine, contrast with fatty cuts of beef, lamb, or pork. Number 3, consider the flavor profile of the foods on the plate. Amplify these flavors in the dish by selecting the appropriate sauce. Use a lamb stock in a brown sauce to accompany braised or roasted lamb, for example. Use sauces to introduce a global flavor profile. White sauces, for example, take on a Scandinavian flavor profile when fresh dill or white pepper are used to season it. When chili peppers, diced tomatoes, and cumin are added instead of the white sauce, it takes on a Latin American flavor. And last but not least, consider the visual appearance of your dish. Flavored oils made with fresh herbs such as basil or vegetable coulis made from red peppers add a bright color and intense flavor to the foods they accompany. Wine reductions and pan sauces add a sheen to the plate. Consider using 2 or more sauces on the same plate to offer contrasting or complementary flavors, but resist the urge to over-embellish a dish. Create visual contrast when choosing a sauce such as a creamy velouté or a beurre blanc over a rosy flesh salmon. Consider the texture of a sauce as a source of visual contrast, such as a chunky tomato sauce served over a pan-fried fish. Now, in today's lecture, guys, we talked about the importance of stocks and sauces. Remember, a good quality stock and a good quality sauce is what separates your cooks from your chefs. So make sure you pay close attention to this lecture and make sure if you need more information to watch it again. I hope you enjoyed the information that was shared with you today, and I leave you with this. This is one of my own sayings, as I usually leave you with a chef's quote. You need to either do it with passion or don't do it at all. We'll see you on the next lecture, students. Have a great day.